Welcome to Real Estate Focus. I'm Calvin Law. We're going to talk about the trend in residential lending today. My guest is David Snover. He is with Mortgage Equity Partners, and he is here today to share his expertise about residential lending with us. Welcome, David.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you.
I'm excited to have a conversation.
We do. Look forward to it as well. So, you have been in the business for 22 years.
22.
More or less.
They go by quick.
Yeah. Time flies before you know, right?
Oh, boy.
When you're fun, especially. So
I know a little more today than I did 22 years ago, so that's a good thing.
hey, we learn as we go. We
That's
do as
right.
we
That's it.
we do as we learn, right? So
That's it.
no doubt. So let's talk about a little bit about mass housing program. We talk about it before we come on the show. So especially when it comes to down payment assistance, how does that work in a mass housing program?
So mass housing or more broadly, down payment assistance programs are provided on a local and state basis. And in the state of Massachusetts, there's today somewhere in the vicinity of 57 cities or towns that offer down payment assistance. So down payment assistance programs are independent of mass housing, for example, who is a quasi-lender. They happen to have a down payment assistance program, but how they work is, in effect, mass housing would provide the first mortgage, and then they also provide a down payment assistance program which would layer underneath the first mortgage if one qualifies. But independent of mass housing, there's a variety of other programs for first mortgages that allow for layering of down payment assistance underneath it. FHA, for example, Federal Housing Administration, Fannie Mae has a Home Ready and Home Possible program that's focused on first-time home buyers, and underneath that you can have a down payment assistance. So you can have a combination of a first-time home buyer focused first mortgage program, i.e. mass housing, FHA, Home Ready, Home Possible, and underneath it is a down payment assistance program that allows the borrower to have either a loan or a grant for potentially anywhere from 10 to, in the city of Boston, for example, 50,000. We happen to be an approved City of Boston provider of that program, but so it's kind of complex as to how one can configure or what one qualifies for. I guess the big message is first-time home buyers should be as educated as they can from their mortgage provider or their financing sources as to the availability of down payment assistance programs and first-time home buyer focus programs inclusive of mass housing, but it's geographically specific. It depends on where they are looking.
So those guidelines are fall within their income.
Say it again.
So those guidelines fall within their income.
One of the criteria, couple of the big criterias, there are income caps with these programs. I mean, they're lending programs, and it makes sense, right? If you're going to get money either granted to you or lent to you to fund down payment and closing costs that you otherwise couldn't come up with or don't have access to, you have to qualify for that money. So credit score is one, income caps are another, assets, and the income is household income. It isn't the same type of income as a traditional first mortgage, what is referred to as a qualifying income. It's household income. So it's, this is where it gets a little bit reliant on the expertise of the mortgage provider and the DPA. We happen to be pretty expert in it. But it's been an area, that we've chosen to focus in, and we help a lot of first-time, lower moderate income borrowers is what it amounts to, and buyers is where these programs exist nationally too, on a state basis and local basis. They just vary by state and by locale.
So in terms of the down payment portion assistance, do the buyers have to pay it back to the state or local within certain years?
Good question. Potentially. The answer, don't want to sound boring, but the answer to almost every question, and the finance mortgage world is it depends. What's it depend on? A lot of stuff. The answer to your question is it depends. Some depends on the program. Some City of Boston, for example, it's a grant. It potentially as much as 50,000. Grants are not paid back. Some of the loans, down payment assistance loans, even if approved, gives the borrower the opportunity to either make payments or not make payments. Often they're not, if the person uses 15,000, they qualify, they use 15,000 for down payment, and they stay in the home for 3 to 5 years, the loan is forgiven. So there's variations where you have to pay it back at a reduced percentage, like 1 or 2%, spread over 5. But in a lot of cases, generally speaking, anyone would want to hope that they could have little to no payments, and if they're in the home long enough, not have to pay it back, because it's not. It's not $100,000 or $250,000. It's 10, 15, 20 grand, which to someone that's just starting out takes a while to save, right?
It does, especially the cost of living right now.
Especially affordability today.
Yeah,
100%.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So
yeah.
A lot of people can't save money nowadays. I mean, they have more debt, more than savings. I hate to say that, So, and that's why the credit card debt keep going up, and is in the trillions right now. Scary, to say the least, So that's why the down payment program assistance is very helpful to first-time home buyers. So with that being said, let's talk about the trend in residential lending right now. So what do you see the market right now in terms of residential lending?
I guess I'll quickly break it out to either purchase, in residential lending is in the form of either purchase loans or refinance loans. So I think most people, even if you're not in real estate or casually, refinance has been nil to, not too much, as rates have gone from, as low as 2 and change percent to a little over 8 last year. So on the refinance side, unless a life event, divorce, etc., there are certain circumstances. I mean, there are cash out refinances. I actually happen to be doing one, back to your comment about debt, but it's very, very low. The larger issue, obviously as it relates to housing, is the people that want to buy a house, that like first-time buyers that are tired of renting and particularly the last couple of years, COVID's really frustrated the heck out of people, and they're ready to go and they're tired of waiting. So the pent-up demand is pretty significant. Demand is not the issue with the purchase market. So just to give you the finances of it, the mortgage industry, what are we in, 24? So in 22 and 23, the numbers in the industry, volume and profits, if you will, dropped about 65%. So there's been a lot of companies that have gone out, that have merged. 2 years ago, there were 180,000 or so independent mortgage bankers like myself, licensed originators. There are under 80,000 today. So residential lending, as we know, being in the business, ebbs and flows. The purchase market has been very supply constrained the last few years. Thus, the purchase transactions are very, very low. The hope is that where are we going depends on who you listen to and your source of information and how reliable and knowledgeable those folks are. Everyone's hopeful. Many projections are that, and the Federal Reserve came out in their last meeting and said they're going to cut rates, the Fed funds rate 3 times in 24, which more or less has a fair amount of influence over long-term mortgage rates. The question is, when are they going to make that first cut? And the hope was at the start of the year it was going to happen in March. The data, the economic data remains strong. The labor market remains strong. There's some things that are frustrating the Fed, so they're really not in any hurry to make that first cut. So the market at the moment is kind of stuck, and has been. Rates, for example, interest rates have gone up since the start of the year. Not a lot, but since January 1st, basically, to today, they're higher, and they've gradually gone up. So they were in the high sixes end of last year kind of thing. They're now in the low sevens. We've probably lost about 0.25%. For some people, that's not a huge issue, but what we have found for the folks that I follow religiously for many, many years, it isn't the absolute rate, it's the movement of rate that really is disruptive to people. When you get pre-approved for a mortgage at 7% today, and next month when you're really hot and heavy looking, or the month after, rates are 8%. You're like, it's not going to work.
It's like a roller coaster, right?
Yeah, so, you can't. In our history of being in the business, historically rates don't move that. They're not that volatile. Housing can't be real volatile. We all have to live somewhere. Whether you're paying your own mortgage or your landlord's, or mom and dad, but hoping to get out the door, right? You gotta pay more. You're paying, and so when the cost of money or the cost to qualify for money, that rate moves like this on you. You're like, whew.
Right. So that's why the housing inventory is kind of low, because a lot of sellers or homeowners, when they bought their home, they got like 2 to 3%, right? Interest rate, either 15 years or 30 years fixed rate. Yep. So right now, where the rates are high, and they said, where we got to go? And if we have a place to go, do we need to pay like 7 or 8%?
That's correct.
And also at the same time, their monthly payment is going to be ballooned up to like maybe more like $1,000 to $2,000 more than what they can afford.
That's right.
That's why people want to sit in their homes for now and see where the market will take them.
That's right.
In hopes that the Fed will cut their rate maybe in March, if not in June, somewhere around there, right? So that's where the market is. It's pretty much like stagnated. And at the same time, a lot of first-time home buyers, millennials or X generation and Gen Z or something like that, they can't afford a down payment. I mean, now average homes in Massachusetts, I mean, when you talk about like moving condition, maybe a little bit fixed and upper, it's about 400,000 and up, right?
Yeah. So
at least like $500,000. Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
The median price is in the mid fours.
Yeah.
Condos are a little less, but housing is required to. You don't want to live, on the street.
On a car, right?
And you can only stop your life. So for the existing homeowner, life happens, right? You had one child when you bought that first home 5 years ago, 7 years ago. You've added a second, and you've kind of withstood the period through COVID, and you've waited for, you've watched rates go, up from 2 to 8. And now you've kind of watched rates in that low 7, give or take 7% for a year or so. You become accustomed to, that volatility has calmed down a little. So, and you've grown accustomed to it, and your second child and your first child. So the point is, life happens. You got to move at some point. You know what I mean? It's the first-time buyers that are renting or wherever they're living, right? They don't have a home to sell. So we are seeing, and I follow this data pretty religiously, we are seeing new listings data weekly has been growing for about 3 months now. So we are trending up very slowly, but the inventory today in the country is a third of what it was in 2019, active existing homes for sale. So it's watching the trends on a daily, weekly basis. It's the forward-looking data as to my advice to folks that are saying, like an existing or a first-time buyer, I'm just going to wait and see when the rates fall. The challenge with that is, so isn't everyone else in your same shoes. And when they do start to drop, you're going to have a whole bunch of people competing for the same properties, and that, pricing is going to reflect that. So it's just a tough spot when you don't have the supply to meet the demand, and we all know, there's lots of reasons for it in the country.
I told people to buy. Sorry. So that's why I told people to buy is that if there's a need, go buy it now.
Absolutely.
Because the chances are you can refinance, right?
Good chance if
Yeah.
if you keep your credit and you're working, right? I mean, it's absolutely.
The rates won't last this high forever. So, might as well just get into your home and become an owner and then, refinance down the road. I mean, that way is much better than waiting.
If you're going to buy, right? The home ownership rate in the country is always run in the mid-60s, low to mid-60s historically, right? So 1 out of 3 people don't buy a home either because they can or they don't want to. But 2/3, 2 out of 3 of us, buy a home, want to buy a home, or are in a home, and your rates go like this. So at some point you will no one takes a 30-year mortgage out anymore. Maybe 100 years ago or 75 they did. And you have the mortgage burning parties where you stayed in it and you didn't refinance it, Anyway.
We are talking to David Snover at Mortgage Equity Partners. So my next question is that we did the one condo together in Quincy. So since then, any changes in condo lending?
Yeah, condo lending has condominiums. Lending on condominiums. Since and I can't remember the town in Florida, but that unfortunate collapse of that big condo building in Florida a year ago, whenever that really prompted a wake-up call, I guess, of sorts, right? And so nationally we're seeing this, but to try to keep this fairly brief, the insurance industry being on the hook for so much of that. So there's significant increase or potential increases in costs relative to insurance for condominiums, and the lending standards are tighter, and the legal and financial conditions of the management companies. So the lending on condominiums across the country has definitely been more restrictive and watched more carefully. And by definition, when something's higher risk in the mortgage industry and in other financial products, it costs more. So for example, that's reflected with interest rates. The interest rates on condo, the difference between a single family interest rate and a condominium interest rate has always been a little higher for condo. Why? Because it's higher risk. Well, now that higher risk has gotten a little higher. So where maybe historically someone that was looking at a 7% rate for a single family might be looking at a 7.25 for a condo. Today, that could be 7.5.
Interesting.
Because of the higher risk.
Yeah. So that collapse a few years ago impacted the
absolutely
condo lending.
Absolutely.
Since then, so.
Yep. No, that was a turning point. You know what I mean? Everything ebbs and flows right over it. But yes, for sure. That was a big.
It's too bad. Yeah. So,
yeah.
In terms of down payment, let's continue on down payment. A lot of homeowners nowadays with high interest rate, I mean, they're twofolds. A majority of them have more cash, so they can put down more than 20%. So I've seen like a lot of buyers with more cash, to buy a home right now because of high interest rate. So they want to have a minimal monthly payment. So they're putting down more cash. And on the other hand, what about buyers with less than 20%? And with less than 20%, they have to pay the PMI, right? So what is PMI?
PMI stands for private mortgage insurance. MI is the acronym that you'll hear more often, mortgage insurance. But when a buyer is purchasing a home and taking a mortgage and putting less than a 20% down payment towards that purchase, they have to pay private mortgage insurance. Now, depending on the loan program, meaning FHA versus what's called a conventional Fannie Mae loan, FHA requires mortgage insurance regardless of how much money you put down. So if you go into an FHA loan, you can put as little as down payment minimum is 3.5%. it has mortgage insurance. Regardless of how long you're in that loan and how much equity you build, the mortgage insurance payment amount for your mortgage never goes away until you refinance or sell that home. But there's advantages to an FHA loan that some people need to take advantage of to qualify. Conventional loans, you can put as little as 3% down. And the longer you own the home and the more you pay your balance down and the property appreciates and you get to the point where you're below 80% loan to value, how much you owe to the value of the property, the PMI falls off, i.e. you don't have to refinance, it goes away by itself. But that amount, PMI, private mortgage insurance, varies. If you're putting 3% down, that monthly amount is higher. If you're putting 5% down, it's a little less. If you're putting 15% down, you're still under 20, but it's not as high of a monthly payment. It could be as little as less than $100 to as much as $400 or $500, depending on the size of the mortgage and how little you're putting down.
And the size of the home too, I guess.
And well, the size of the mortgage relates to the size of the home typically, right?
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for being here.
Oh, this was fun.
Unfortunately, the time is up. So thank you, David, for sharing your expertise. And I believe your info is very helpful to
You're welcome.
experienced buyers, first-time home buyers, investors, etc., etc. So with all that being said, before you want to purchase a home, make sure you contact a professional, a lending professional, to get a pre-approval letter. Getting a pre-approval letter is important to know what kind of program you qualify for, what type of down payments that you need for your financing. Get your assets straight out before you contact a professional. And also the most important thing, one of the most important things is to have the credit score good enough so you can get a reasonable rate, especially where the rates are much higher at this point. So you want to have a very good credit score so you can get a good rate when you buy a home. And then you can refinance down the road, of course. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.